There is a specific kind of heaviness that some people carry. You see it not in their physical appearance, but in the silence between their words. It lives in the way they apologize for taking up space, in the way they scan a room for danger that isn't there, and in the exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. This weight has a name, though it is rarely spoken aloud. It is the tragedy of a ruined childhood. And the tragedy is not always a single, explosive event. It is often far more insidious. It is the tragedy of soil that was dry, cracked, and unforgiving when it should have been a garden. Childhood is biologically designed to be a sanctuary, a protected space where a human being stretches toward the light. But for millions, that sanctuary was a battlefield. And the most dangerous part of this battlefield is that the war often continues silently, decades after the last shot was fired. To understand this, we have to look at the biology of survival. When a human brain is forming, it is not just learning facts, it is building the architecture of reality. If a child is held, soothed, and seen, their brain wires itself for connection. It learns, I am safe. But when a child is raised in chaos, or worse, in the freezing cold of emotional neglect, the brain builds a different map entirely. It adapts. It learns that love is conditional. It learns that safety is a temporary illusion. It learns to read the micro-expressions on a parent's face like a bomb defusal expert reads a wire. This is where the invisible wounds begin to fester. We often think of trauma as physical scars. If a child breaks their arm, we sign the cast. We offer sympathy. The injury is visible. But there is no cast for a broken spirit. There is no bandage for the child who learned that their feelings were a burden. And because these wounds are invisible, they are often dismissed, first by the parents, and later devastatingly by the adult child themselves. They tell themselves, it wasn't that bad. I had food, I had a roof. Others had it worse. But the body keeps the score. The child who had to be the peacemaker grows into the adult who cannot say no without crippling guilt. The child who was ignored grows into the adult who over-explains everything, desperate to be understood. The child who lived in unpredictability grows into the adult who sabotages peace because chaos feels more familiar than calm. This is the cruel paradox of the ruined childhood. The survival strategies that saved you back then become the very things that destroy you right now. Hypervigilance was a brilliant tool when you were 7 years old and needed to know if your father was in a bad mood by the sound of his keys in the door. That heightened sensitivity kept you safe. But at 35, in a safe relationship, that same hypervigilance looks like anxiety. It looks like mistrust. It looks like waiting for the other shoe to drop when everything is finally going well. You are not broken. You are simply adapted to a world that no longer exists. One of the most profound impacts of this early deprivation is on attachment, the way we connect with others. Research in developmental psychology paints a stark picture. When the secure base of childhood is missing, the adult often feels like they are walking on shifting sand. Intimacy feels dangerous because in the past, closeness meant pain. Or conversely, they become desperate for validation, trying to earn the love they were denied. They become chameleons, shifting their personality to fit whatever they think people want them to be. They flatten themselves. They silence their own needs. They become invisible. Because being invisible was the only way to be safe. And deeply quietly, they blame themselves. This is the lie that the ruined childhood implants in the soul. The belief that you are the problem. A child cannot comprehend that their parent is emotionally immature, addicted, or narcissistically wounded. A child's logic is egocentric and absolute. If a parent is angry, the child thinks, I must be bad. If a parent is absent, the child thinks, I must be unlovable. These are not conscious thoughts. They are structural beliefs. They become the lens through which the adult sees the world. They result in that invisible heaviness, the exhausting effort of trying to hide a defect that isn't even real. But if we stop here, we leave the story unfinished. And this story deserves a better ending. The tragedy of a ruined childhood is real. It is unfair. It is a theft of the carefree years that every human deserves. However, it is not a life sentence. The same neuroscience that explains how trauma shapes the brain offers the key to freedom: neuroplasticity. The brain is not concrete, it is clay. It can be rewired, it can change. The process is not easy, it requires grieving. And this is a step many try to skip. You have to grieve the childhood you didn't have. You have to grieve the parents you deserved but didn't get. You have to allow yourself to feel the anger and the sadness that you suppressed for decades. It requires reparenting. The act of becoming for yourself the protector and nurturer you never had. It means listening to that inner voice that says, I'm scared, and instead of silencing it, responding with kindness. It means setting boundaries, which feels terrifying at first. But eventually feels like dignity. And there is a hidden glimmer of gold in the wreckage. People who have endured the darkness of a ruined childhood often possess a depth that is rare in this world. They are the empathy carriers. They are the ones who can sense when someone else is hurting because they know the frequency of pain. They are the listeners. They are the ones who appreciate safety and peace with a reverence that others take for granted. They become philosophers of the human condition, not by choice but by necessity. If you recognize yourself in these words, know this. Your struggle is not proof that you are damaged. It is proof that you survived. The anxiety, the fear, the doubt, these are the echoes of a child who was doing their best to stay afloat in a storm they didn't create. But the storm is over. You are the captain of the ship now. You cannot go back and fix the soil of the past. You cannot rewrite the beginning of the book. But you, and only you, hold the pen for the rest of the chapters. The heaviness you feel is real, but it does not belong to you. It is the baggage of a time that has passed. And slowly, piece by piece, you can set it down. You can learn to trust. You can learn that you are enough just as you are, without performing, without earning, without hiding. The ruined childhood is a tragedy, yes, but the healed adult, that is a triumph. That is a masterpiece built from the shards of what was broken. And that version of you, the one who survived, the one who is healing, the one who is breaking the cycle, is the one the world needs most.